The Byzantine-Bulgarian Wars were a series of conflicts fought between the Byzantines and Bulgarians which began when the Bulgars first settled in the Balkan peninsula in the 5th century, and intensified with the expansion of the Bulgarian Empire to the southwest after 680 AD. The Byzantines and Bulgarians continued to clash over the next century with variable success, until the Bulgarians, led by Krum, inflicted a series of crushing defeats on the Byzantines. After Krum died in 814, his son Omurtag negotiated a 30-year peace treaty. In 893, during the next major war, Simeon I, the Bulgarian emperor, defeated the Byzantines while attempting to form a large Eastern European empire, but his efforts failed. In 971, John I Zimisks, the Byzantine emperor, subjugated much of the weakening Bulgarian Empire, facing wars with Russians, Pechenegs, Magyars and Croatians, and by defeating Boris II and capturing Preslav, the Bulgarian capital. Constantinople under Basil II completely conquered Bulgaria in 1018 as a result of the 1014 Battle of Gligan. There were rebellions against Byzantine rule from 1040 to 1041, and in the 1070s and the 1080s, but these failed. In 1185, however, Theodore Peter and Ivan Ascent started a revolt, and the weakening Byzantine Empire, facing internal dynastic troubles of its own, was unable to prevent the revolt from being successful. After the Fourth Crusade conquered Constantinople in 1204, Kaloyan, the Bulgarian emperor, tried to establish friendly relations with the Crusaders, but the newly created Latin Empire spurned any offer of alliance with the Bulgarians. Because of his cold reception, Kaloyan allied with the Nicaeans, one of the Byzantine states created after the fall of Constantinople, instead, which reduced the Crusaders' power in the area. Even though his nephew Boril allied with the Latin Empire, Boril's success sided with the Nicaeans, despite a few continuing attacks from them. After the Latin Empire collapsed, the Byzantines, taking advantage of a Bulgarian civil war, captured portions of Thrace, but the Bulgarian Emperor Theodore Svetoslav retook these lands. The Byzantine-Bulgarian relations continued to fluctuate until the Ottoman Turks captured the Bulgarian capital in 1393 and the Byzantine in 1453. Asparuk's War. The Byzantines and the Bulgarians first clashed when Khan Kubrat's youngest son Asparuk moved westward, occupying today's southern Bessarabia. Asparuk defeated the Byzantines under Constantine IV, who led a combined land and sea operation against the invaders and besieged the fortified camp in Ongala. Suffering from bad health, the emperor had to leave the army, which allowed itself to panic and be defeated by the Bulgarians. In 681, Constantine was forced to acknowledge the Bulgar state in Moesia and to pay protection money to avoid further inroads into Byzantine Thrace. 8 years later, Asparuk led a successful campaign against Byzantine Thrace. Tervil's Wars. Tervel, first mentioned in the Byzantine texts in 704 when the deposed Emperor Justinian II came to him and asked for his aid, supported Justinian in an attempted restoration to the Byzantine throne in exchange for friendship, gifts and his daughter in marriage. With an army of 15,000 horsemen provided by Tervel, Justinian suddenly advanced on Constantinople and managed to gain entrance into the city in 705. The The restored emperor executed his supplanters, the emperors Leontios and Tiberios III, alongside many of the supporters. Justinian rewarded Tervel with many gifts, the title of Kaiser, which made him second only to the emperor and the first foreign ruler in Byzantine history to receive such a title, and possibly a territorial concession in northeastern Thrace, a region called Zagor. Whether Justinian's daughter Anastasia was married to Tervel as had been arranged is unknown. A mere 3 years later, Justinian II himself violated this arrangement and apparently commenced military operations to recover the ceded area. Tervel routed him at the Battle of Anchialus in 708. In 711, faced by a serious revolt in Asia Minor, Justinian again sought the aid of Tervel but obtained only lukewarm support, manifested in an army of 3,000. Outmaneuvered by the rebel emperor, Philippicus, Justinian was captured and executed, while his Bulgar allies were allowed to retire to their country. Tervel took advantage of the disorder in Byzantium to raid Thrace in 712, plundering as far as the vicinity of Constantinople. According to the chronological information of the Imenik, Tervel died in 715. However, the Byzantine chronicler Theophanes the Confessor ascribes Tervel a role in an attempt to restore the deposed Emperor Anastasius II in 718 or 719. If Tervel did survive this long, he was the Bulgarian ruler who concluded a new treaty with Emperor Theodosius III in 716, and he was also the Bulgarian ruler who helped relieve the Second Arab siege of Constantinople in 717 to 718 by land. According to Theophanes, the Bulgars slaughtered some 22,000 Arabs in the battle. Constantine V's wars. After the death of Sever, Bulgaria descended into a long period of crisis and unrest, while the Byzantines consolidated their positions. Between 756 and 775, the new Byzantine Emperor Constantine V led 9 campaigns against his northern neighbor to establish a Byzantine border on the Danube. Due to the frequent change of rulers and the constant political crisis, Bulgaria was on the verge of destruction. In his first campaign in 756, Constantine V was successful and managed to defeat the Bulgarians twice, but in 759, Vinik, the Bulgarian Khan, defeated the Byzantine army comprehensively in the Battle of the Rishki Pass. Vinik then sought to make peace with the Byzantines but was assassinated by Bulgarian nobles. The new ruler, Telets, was defeated at the Battle of Anchialus in 763. During the next campaigns, both sides failed to gain significant success because the Byzantines could not pass through the Balkan mountains, and the fleet was destroyed twice in heavy storms. In 774, they defeated an inferior Bulgarian force at Byzicia, but this was the last success of Constantine V. As a result of the defeat, the Bulgarians took serious precautions to get rid of the Byzantine spies in Pliska. Khan Telerig sent a secret emissary to Constantine V indicating his intention to flee Bulgaria and seek refuge with the emperor, and seeking assurances of hospitality. Telerig succeeded in having the emperor betray his own agents in Bulgaria, who were duly rounded up and executed. The expected Byzantine retaliation failed to materialize as Constantine V died in 775. Constantine VI failed retaliations. In 791, the Byzantine Emperor Constantine VI embarked on an expedition against Bulgaria, in retaliation for Bulgarian incursions in the Struma Valley since 789. Kardam preempted the Byzantine invasion and met the enemy near Adrianople. In Thrace, the Byzantine army was defeated and turned to flight. In 792, Constantine VI led another army against the Bulgarians and encamped at Marseilles, near Karnabat, which he proceeded to fortify. Kardam arrived with his army on July 20 and occupied the neighboring heights. After some time passed with the two forces sizing up each other, Constantine VI ordered the attack. But in the resulting Battle of Marseilles, the Byzantine forces lost formation and once again were defeated and turned to flight. Kardam captured the imperial tent and the emperor's servants. After his return to Constantinople, Constantine VI signed a peace treaty and undertook to pay an annual tribute to Bulgaria. By 796, the imperial government was recalcitrant and Kardam found it necessary to demand the tribute while threatening to devastate Thrace if it were not paid. According to the chronicler Theophanes the Confessor, Constantine VI mocked the demand by having dung sent instead of gold as fitting tribute, and promising to lead a new army against the elderly Kardam at Marseilles. Once again the emperor's army headed north, and once again it encountered Kardam in the vicinity of Adrianople. The armies faced each other for 17 days without entering into battle, while the two monarchs probably engaged in negotiations. In the end, conflict was averted and the peace resumed on the same terms as in 792. Khan Krum's Wars. Khan Krum engaged in an aggressive policy within the Balkans, raiding along the Struma Valley in 807, where he defeated a Byzantine army and captured an enormous amount of gold intended as wages for the whole Byzantine army. In 809, Krum besieged and forced the surrender of Serdica, slaughtering the Byzantine garrison in spite of his promise of safe conduct. This provoked Byzantine Emperor Nikephoros I to settle Anatolian populations along the frontier to protect it and to attempt to retake and refortify Serdica. Although this enterprise ultimately failed, conflict with Nikephoros I. In early 811, Nikephoros I undertook a massive expedition against Bulgaria, advancing to Marseilles. Here Krum attempted to negotiate on July 11, 811, but Nikephoros was determined to continue his advance. His army managed to avoid Bulgarian ambushes in the Balkan mountains and defeated an army of 12,000 that tried to block their advance into Moesia. Another hastily assembled army of 50,000 was defeated before the walls of the Bulgarian capital, Pliska, which fell to the emperor on July 20. Here Nikephoros, who had been a financial minister before becoming emperor, helped himself to the treasures of Krum, while setting the city afire and turning his army on the population. A new diplomatic tentative from Krum was rebuffed. Nikephoros showed great cruelty, ordering his army to kill the population of the capital. Increasingly concerned about the breakdown of discipline in his army, Nikephoros finally began to retreat towards Thrace. In the meantime, Krum had mobilized as many of his subjects as he could and had begun to set traps and ambushes for the retreating imperial army in the mountain passes. At dawn on July 26, the Byzantines found themselves trapped against a moat and wooden wall in the Varbaka Pass. Nikephoros was killed in the ensuing battle along with many of his troops, while his son Staurakios was carried to safety by the imperial bodyguard after receiving a paralyzing wound to his neck. According to tradition, Krum had the emperor's skull lined with silver and used it as a drinking cup. This enhanced his reputation for brutality and won him the appellation of New Sennacherib. conflict with Michael I. Rungabius was forced to abdicate after a brief reign and was succeeded by his brother-in-law, Michael I Rungabi. In 812 Krum invaded Byzantine Thrace, taking Develt and scaring the population of nearby fortresses to flee towards Constantinople. For this position of strength, Krum offered a return to the peace treaty of 716. Unwilling to compromise his regime by weakness, the new emperor Michael I refused to accept the proposal, ostensibly opposing the clause for exchange of deserters. To apply more pressure on the emperor, Krum besieged and captured Mesembria in the fall of 812. In February 813, the Bulgarians raided into Thrace but were repelled by the emperor's forces. Encouraged by this success, Michael I summoned troops from the entire empire and headed north, hoping for a decisive victory. Krum led his army south towards Adrianople and pitched camp near Versinikia. Michael I lined up his army against the Bulgarians, but neither side initiated an attack for 2 weeks. Finally, on June 22, 813, the Byzantines attacked but were immediately turned to flight. With Krum's cavalry in pursuit, the rout of Michael I was complete, and Krum advanced on Constantinople, which he besieged by land. Discredited, Michael was forced to abdicate and become a monk, the third Byzantine emperor undone by Krum in as many years. Conflict with Leo V the Armenian. The new emperor, Leo V the Armenian, offered to negotiate and arranged for a meeting with Krum. As Krum arrived, he was ambushed by Byzantine archers and was wounded as he made his escape. Furious, Krum ravaged the environs of Constantinople and headed home, capturing Adrianople en route and transplanting its inhabitants across the Danube. In spite of the approach of winter, Krum took advantage of good weather to send a force of 30,000 into Thrace, capturing Arcadiopolis and carrying off some 50,000 captives. The loot from Thrace was used to enrich Krum and his nobility and included architectural elements utilized in the reconstruction of Pliska, perhaps largely by captured Byzantine artisans. Krum spent the winter preparing for a major attack on Constantinople, where rumor reported the assemblage of an extensive siege park to be transported on 5,000 carts. He died before he set out, however, on April 13, 814, and was succeeded by his son Omurtag. Omurtag's peace treaty. The reign of Khan Omurtag opened with an invasion of the Byzantine Empire after the rejection of Byzantine offers for peace. The Bulgarians penetrated as far south as modern Babuski, but they were defeated by Emperor Leo V the Armenian, and Omurtag escaped the battlefield on his swift horse. The battle was not a decisive blow for the Bulgarians, though it certainly had some effect. The possibility of an anti-Bulgarian alliance between the Byzantine and the Frankish empires, the need to consolidate Bulgarian authority in the newly conquered lands, and the new stirring of the tribes in the steppes gave reason for Omurtag to conclude a 30-year peace treaty with the Byzantines in 815, which was partly inscribed on a surviving column found near the village of Seltsi, Shumen province. According to that inscription, the treaty specified the border in Thrace, the issue with those Slavs who remained in Byzantium, and the exchange of the other prisoners of war. The treaty was honored by both sides and was renewed after the accession of the new Byzantine Emperor Michael II to the throne in 820. In 821, Thomas the Slav rebelled against the Byzantine emperor and laid siege to Constantinople, seeking to seize the imperial throne for himself. Khan Omurtag sent an army to help Michael II put down the rebellion, attacking the rebels at the Battle of Kedoktis. Although Byzantine accounts report that Thomas's army was routed, modern scholars consider the battle a victory, albeit costly. Greek for Thomas. Brief war with Theophilos. After the expiration of the original 20-year peace treaty with the Byzantine Empire in 836, Emperor Theophilos ravaged the regions within the Bulgarian frontier. The Bulgarians retaliated, and under the leadership of Isbal, the minister of Malumia, they reached Adrianople. At this time, if not earlier, the Bulgarians annexed Philippopolis and its environs. Several surviving monumental inscriptions from this reign make reference to the Bulgarian victories and others to the continuation of construction activities in and near Pliska. The war ended, however, when Slavs in the vicinity of Thessalonica rebelled against the Byzantine Empire in 837. Emperor Theophilos sought Bulgarian support in putting down the rebellion, but he simultaneously arranged for his fleet to sail through the Danube Delta and undertake a clandestine evacuation of some of the Byzantine captives settled in Transdanubian Bulgaria by Krum and Omurtag. In retaliation, Isbal campaigned along the Aegean coasts of Thrace and Macedonia and captured the city of Philippi, where Theophilos set up a surviving memorial inscription in a local church. Isbal's campaign may have resulted in the establishment of Bulgarian suzerainty over the Slavic tribe of the Smoljani. Wars of Boris I. Despite his able diplomacy, statesmanship, and his importance in the process of converting Bulgaria to Christianity, Boris I was not a particularly successful leader in war, being at various times defeated by the Franks, Croats, Serbs, and Byzantines. Soon after coming to power, Boris launched a brief campaign against the Byzantines in 852. No details of the outcome of this war are extant, though it is possible he may have gained some territory in inland Macedonia. Another conflict between the Byzantines and Bulgarians started in 855 to 856. The empire wanted to regain its control over some areas of inland Thrace, and the ports around the Gulf of Bulgars on the Black Sea. The Byzantine forces, led by the emperor and the sees of Bardas, were successful in the conflict and reconquered a number of cities, Philippopolis, Develtus, Anchialus and Mesembria being among them, and also the frontier region between Sida and Develtus, known as Zagora, in northeastern Thrace. At the time of this campaign, the Bulgarians were distracted by a war with the Franks under Louis the German and the Croatians. Military conflict connected to the Christian conversion of Boris. In 863, Boris made a decision to embrace Christianity, and he sought a mission from the Franks. The Byzantines could not countenance so close a neighbor as Bulgaria falling under Frankish religious control. Byzantium had recently gained a major victory over the Arabs and was free to field a considerable military force against Bulgaria. A fleet was sent into the Black Sea and an army dispatched to invade Bulgaria. The bulk of Boris's army was campaigning against Moravia far to the northwest. He had little choice but to yield immediately. He broke off the Frankish alliance, allowed Greek clergy to enter Bulgaria, and was eventually baptized. With the Byzantine Emperor Michael III as his sponsor, Boris took the additional name of Michael at his baptism. The Bulgarians were allowed to recover the debatable region of Zagora as a reward for the change of religious orientation.